The Sony WF-1000XM4 versus Bowers Wilkins PI7. These are two top-of-the-line wireless earbuds that bring some serious sound quality and features to the table. In this video, I'll be comparing them feature for feature to see which one offers you better value for your money. Oh, what? You weren't expecting to see a dude on the screen with sunglasses on? I got light sensitivity. But I digress. For both transparency and for full disclosure, I bought the Sony WF-1000XM4 with my own money for review purposes. The Bowers Wilkins PI7 were loaned to me by a friend of the channel for review and comparison purposes. The means by which I received both of these earbuds does not color my comparison in any way. There was no compensation involved from either Sony or Bowers Wilkins, and no one was able to see this comparison video prior to it being published. In other words, the brands will be seeing this video at the same time that you are. So now, let's not waste any time. So first up, let's talk about the battery life and the case. So in my own testing, the Bowers Wilkins brought me 3 hours and 48 minutes with noise cancellation turned on. That's pretty rough. Where the Sonys were able to bring us 5 hours and 14 minutes with noise cancellation turned on. Now, as you can see here, that is a 2-hour margin of difference. That's pretty crazy. So it's an easy win here for the Sony XM4s. Now, secondly, the Sony case is a bit smaller, so it's definitely more pocketable. But on the other hand, the Bowers Wilkins case gives you the ability to connect it to other devices that don't offer Bluetooth. So bit of a toss-up on that one. On top of that, they both offer USB-C and wireless charging as charging options, so they kind of tie up in that portion of it. But for just sheer playback time and battery life, yeah, the Sonys take the easy win here. Now on to comfort. For comfort, for at least for my ears. Now, take this with a grain of salt because everybody's ears are different, so user experience will vary. But for my own ears, the Bowers Wilkins were more comfortable than the Sony XM4s. I felt less pressure on my ear. I felt less pressure on the concha of my ears as well. Now, there is a slight size difference between the two of these earbuds where the Bowers Wilkins are slightly smaller, ever so slightly. But even with that, neither of these are probably going to be a good choice for people with small ears, so definitely keep that in mind. Now let's move over to the app. Now for the app, the win here, once again, easily going to be for Sony. It is a much more complete and fleshed out app that gives you access and controls over everything, including the fully customizable EQ suite, adaptive sound, customizable controls, and basically everything that the Bowers Wilkins app just is not. It is very, very limited in what it gives you. It gives you toggles for the active noise cancellation and for the ambient sound, but there's no ability to go in and do any sort of EQ customization or touch control customization or anything of that nature. So this is something that I hope they work on, but right now it's an easy win for Sony. So now let's move over to the performance. So first up, it's going to be the ambient sound. And once again, Sony is going to take the win here. It is louder and it is also clearer and it sounds more natural and less processed. Now with the Bowers Wilkins, you can still get some pretty decent volume from it, but it's a bit more muffled and it definitely sounds more processed. So there is a noticeable difference between the two and the Sony take the win here. Now we move over to active noise cancellation. Once again, it's going to be Sony. It is noticeably stronger than the Bowers Wilkins PI7. It blocks much more low and mid frequency noises. Now, mind you, the active noise cancellation of the Bowers Wilkins is not bad, but it's definitely not on the level of, say, Sony or much less Bose. It's just not quite there. So hopefully that's something that they could either strengthen, or maybe if you swap out the tips for something like memory foam, you might get some added passive noise isolation that could improve the overall performance. But as of right now, for ANC, Sony definitely takes the win here. Now over onto volume. Now in the volume department, it's actually going to be Bowers Wilkins here. So they're getting a 9.5 out of 10 on my volume scale, where the Sony's got a 9 out of 10. But the Bowers Wilkins, they're probably like 1 to 2 volume ticks louder. So not by much, but it's definitely something that's noticeable here. And on another note, when you're pushing them up to that highest volume level, there's almost little to no muddiness or breakup in the sound. It actually holds itself very well, even up to the higher volume levels. So now let's move over to the sound quality. And in the sound quality, we're going to do it like this. First, we're going to do sound quality with no EQ, and then we're going to do sound quality with some EQ applied to them. Both of these were done with the Sony's in LDAC mode, and with the Bowers Wilkins in aptX adaptive mode. So first up, sound with no EQ. The winner here is going to be the Sony's. They're definitely clearer, much more well-controlled tune right out of the box. The mids are much more vibrant, vocal clarity is definitely much more present, so overall it is a better and noticeably clearer sound quality. Now when it comes to the bass, they're both pretty equivalent on the impact there, with maybe the Bowers Wilkins having slightly more sub-bass impact. Now overall, the Bowers Wilkins have a darker and more deep V-shaped sound with recessed mids. So being that it's much more recessed and it kind of really gets a little darker with the treble, you don't hear the voices as clearly, which to me it just kind of doesn't make sense considering that we're talking a dual driver hybrid setup compared to Sony's single dynamic. But that's exactly what I'm hearing here. So now let's move over to the sound with the EQ. And with EQ, the Bowers Wilkins are going to take the win here. I gave them a big boost in the mids and treble to really open them up and let the vocals shine. Not only that, soundstage really comes alive and you're starting to get improved separation and even airiness in the sound quality. Adding EQ really seems to take advantage of the hybrid dual driver setup where the stock tuning sort of fails it and leaves the mids really pushed down. Now, this is just what I'm hearing here. This is one of the reasons why I said in the app section that they really need to have an EQ built into their own app. But thankfully, you have other apps that'll allow you to EQ, and you can really hear the potential that the Bowers Wilkins can actually bring to the table if they're tuned to your own personal taste. Now, to be fair, the Sonys can really shine as well by adding EQ. You can add as much bass as you want, mids, however you want to do it. And they do respond very well to EQ. But the main difference here is going to be the hardware. The PI7s having a balanced armature and a dynamic driver and being able to fully take advantage of that really puts them over the top here. So now let's get into some call quality samples. And this way you can hear which of these is going to do better for phone calls. All right, so here we have the call quality test for the Bowers Wilkins PI7. So testing, 1, 2, 3. Obviously, I'm indoors and it's a semi-quiet room. So this is what you can expect from the Bowers Wilkins in a semi-quiet environment. All right, so here we have the call quality test for the Sony WF-1000XM4. So testing, 1, 2, 3. Obviously indoors once again, so this is what you can expect from the Sony XM4s in a semi-quiet indoor environment. All right, so here we have the Bowers Wilkins PI7 in a simulated crowded noise environment. So testing, 1, 2, 3. This is what you can expect from like a cafe, crowded bus station, something along those lines. Testing, 1, 2, 3. All right, so here we have the Sony WF-1000XM4 in a simulated crowd noise environment. So testing, 1, 2, 3. This is what you can expect to hear in like a crowded bus stop, bus station, cafe, things along those lines. So testing, 1, 2, 3. As always, you're going to have to be the judge of the call quality down in the comment section. So now let me give you my final verdict, and this is just my own personal opinion here. The Bowers Wilkins have so much potential. Sadly, they're being held back by short battery life, limited controls, and a subpar app. Considering the high asking price of $400, the Sony XM4 quickly become a bargain relatively speaking. To be completely frank, when you're asking $400 for a set of true wireless earbuds, you should really hit on every single thing. Give everybody everything right up front. Consider when your competition is already doing that at a lower price point. Now, on a positive note, I firmly believe that two of these things can be fixed via firmware updates, adding customizable touch controls since both volume and ambient are missing. And adding a fully customizable EQ would greatly help with the value proposition of a set of earbuds at this price point. Considering the hybrid driver design, being able to make your own EQ presets would make these one of the best sounding true wireless earbuds on the market and would distance themselves from the Sony XM4. Now, to be fair, the sound signature that comes with these might sound great to many people, but I personally prefer a bit more airiness and clarity in my music. This is where I'm basing my judgment off of. You can feel free to disagree. To make my position completely clear, we should never buy products in hopes of future updates. We should buy products for what they can do for us right now. And right now, the Sonys give you much more performance for a lot less money. But ultimately, the final decision is going to be all yours.